Which one of these clips looks more real to you? This?
Okay, now, Jack, before the batteries completely die on us.
Or this?
And when you look at the moon that you're headed for and that gets closer and closer, what are your thoughts?
And no, I'm not one of those people that thinks that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landings on a soundstage somewhere in Nevada. Absolutely not. I've no idea where that soundstage is. If you're someone who believes we did get to the moon, then I'm sure you were relieved to see these guys splash back down safely in the Pacific after their historic flight on Artemis II. Look, the Pacific's massive, you can't miss. Okay, maybe a bit harsh. Because this could have been another NASA tragedy waiting to happen, but we'll get to that. They flew further into space than any human has previously. That's if you believe this kind of thing. A lot of people still don't, and you can't blame them. For instance, had you spotted that this latest mission had launched on April 1st? April Fool's Day. I mean, hello? And given the choice between massive Hollywood blockbusters about moon missions like this, as opposed to official NASA footage of moon landings like, this, I think I know which one looks more real to me. But before we get into all of that, just know that the space program has always been about two things: what they tell you it's about and what it's actually about. There's one propaganda technique that NASA's been using since 1969, and it makes complete sense of everything we're about to cover. And soon you'll know exactly what it is, because I'm going to do it on you in this video. See if you can spot it before I give the game away. But first, let's go back, because this argument around whether or not the moon landing was a hoax is actually older than most people having the debate. July 20th, 1969. Neil Armstrong steps foot on the moon and says the line,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
But due to multiple anomalies that people were starting to see, eventually rumours began that this whole thing might have been a hoax. And in 1977, Hollywood even made a film about it called Capricorn 1. So hang on, Hollywood makes a fictionalized account of an event that's apparently real, but that many people think is already a fictional event? I mean, it's no wonder people got confused. It's almost like it was designed that way. So here's a quick reminder of what the main issues are. An American flag was planted on the lunar surface and it looked like it was waving in the breeze, on a moon with no atmosphere.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
I'm no meteorologist, but that looks pretty breezy to me. The Van Allen belts are intense bands of radiation that surround the Earth. The claim is that no humans could survive travelling through them. The official answer is that Apollo's trajectory was travelling at speed and through the thinner sections of the belt. The agency that says the radiation on the way to the moon is manageable is the same agency that says the radiation on the way to Mars might kill you. Okay. Multiple Apollo photographs show shadows pointing in slightly different directions. On Earth, that means multiple light sources. Basically a film studio. The official explanation? The moon's surface is uneven, so parallel shadows diverge on undulating terrain. But I don't have time in this video to cover all of the details, so do yourself a favour, get on Google and check it out for yourself. Not now, obviously, we're not quite finished. The problem with a lot of this is that the issues seem to be a lot of common sense stuff, and NASA's reply is often just, trust us. This is the crew of the Common Sense calling NASA. Capcom, can you hear us? And now a word from this week's sponsor.
Introducing Legacy Narratives. Premium historical event management. We don't rewrite history. We make sure it was written correctly the first time. Services include retroactive credibility auditing, eyewitness alignment packages, footage integrity consulting, the Kubrick package for clients who need plausible deniability with auto-level production values.
You know what? I'd love to trust NASA, but NASA has a small problem with this particular request. A documented, on-the-record, multi-fatality problem that they don't like to talk about. You see, this is what the so-called conspiracy theorists got right, and I'm not talking about the flag and all that stuff. Any government on Earth would use a space mission as a geopolitical weapon. and then just slap a top secret need to know status on it. This is exactly why classified projects exist in the first place. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's just a plain old fact. You see, NASA has been caught lying many times in the past, and not just for the small stuff. Here are the biggies. Challenger, 1986. Engineers warned NASA the night before that the O-rings would fail in cold temperatures. NASA pressured them to override their own recommendation. 7 people died. NASA then misinterpreted what happened to the presidential inquiry until a whistleblower stood up in the hearing itself and corrected them live. Columbia, 2003. Foam hit the heat shield on launch. Engineers flagged it. Management decided it was probably fine. 7 more people died on re-entry. Same culture, different disaster. During Artemis 1's re-entry in 2023, the heat shield lost significantly more material than expected, potentially mission-ending for a crewed flight. NASA didn't announce it. It surfaced 2 years later in an Inspector General report. They were preparing to fly humans on Artemis 2 on a heat shield whose failure mode they hadn't fully disclosed.
We're at 400,000 feet, traveling 34,800 feet per second.
So maybe you can see now why trusting NASA isn't something that everybody just can do. From the very start, the space race was never just a science program. It was 2 superpowers that were both terrified of each other and spending money on rockets that started out as ballistic missiles. And then everyone realized that the weapons they had didn't all have to be lethal. They now had a different kind of weapon pointing at each other, a television camera. And in fact, for this weapon, the publicity was the whole point.
It was the propaganda coup of the year.
You don't need to actually land a moon mission to get everything you need from a moon mission. You just need to say you're going. Watch the Artemis timeline against this geopolitical calendar. China announces a crewed lunar mission. Artemis gets a budget increase. Russia makes a move. Artemis gets a launch window. And once again, the moon isn't a destination, it's a prop, at least metaphorically speaking. Now, ask who's funding this. The logos on the rockets, the contracts, the beneficiaries. This isn't NASA going to the moon, this is a consortium of defense contractors, tech companies, and government agencies, all using this as a branding exercise. Science is just the alibi, the moon is a logo, and the contract is always the end game. Right, remember that technique I told you about at the start of the video, the one I said you wouldn't notice until I told you about it? Here it is. Multiple shadow angles on the moon has engaged human debate for over 50 years. And whilst you've been watching this video, you've been arguing inside your own head whether or not we did go to the moon. Perhaps you've checked a fact, looked something up. You need to pick a side. And whilst you do, you're not asking why it cost $93 billion. And you're definitely not asking questions about the military tech that hitched a ride up there. And that is the technique. I've just done it on you for the last 20 minutes. You're welcome. And this is exactly how modern propaganda works. It's all a big distraction. Whilst they help us focus on outer space, they still wage wars in Earth space. They didn't just go to the moon, they built a story around it so powerful that it's more important than the mission itself. Artemis is the sequel, the flag on the rocket is the brand, and the brand is empire. The question isn't whether or not we got to the moon or whether we're going to the moon. The real question is who's writing the script and what other discussions are going on behind closed doors whilst the rockets fly.